Today on the Region Free Gamers podcast, welcome to Vita Island, where we have more than just visual novels. But seriously, there are a ton of visual novels. Stephen King wishes he wrote this many visual novels. And I know George R.R. Martin, that
Welcome to the Region Free Gamers podcast, the podcast fluent in gaming. In the driver's seat, steering the show for the very first time, I am your host, Kelly, coming at you from the dry, hot desert Arizona this early morning. Of course, I could not be doing this show by myself, so with me today, I have the wonderful group of people, as always, starting with Paul. Paul, how are you today?
I'm great, Kelly. Sadly, I'm not in a desert. I'm in a much cold. Yeah, I shouldn't complain.
Sadly?
Though. It's been beautiful here lately. I can't be too jealous of you anymore.
He's
I'll
in a
wait
snow
until
desert.
November.
This starts to be the time of year I get to be jealous of you guys because I'm sitting in the 120 degree weather.
Been there. Not a fan.
It was I'm sorry. No, it was like 72 degrees over here yesterday, and like I'm driving to my friend's house, and an hour later when I got there, it was 55. I was like, I missed all the warm weather yesterday.
Yeah, and here we're going out and taking walks and everything at like 2 a.m. because that's when it's perfect, and then it just gets to be way too hot during the day.
At 2 a.m., you guys are like vampires.
Yes.
That's how you live your life.
Yes. Yes, I'll get done recording and then go to sleep and then wake up for the nighttime of gaming. All right, and next up, Arnie. Arnie, how are you doing this morning?
I'm pretty good. I recently bought a Vita, but I still haven't gotten my Island, so I'm still waiting on that one.
Still waiting on the Vita Island. Don't worry, we have plenty of room here, so you're always invited. And then last up, Anthony. Anthony, how are you doing this morning?
But EX Kelly, I am living la vida loca over here. This is you have like the smoothest, like tranquil voice over here. I feel like you're gonna give us directions. Like
I know I'm saying, right?
It's so peaceful.
I feel like as long as she's directing the traffic circle with 3 lanes in it,
Yeah.
I think we're gonna be okay.
We're gonna be just fine, guys.
Yeah.
There's going to be no crashes this morning. No way.
Have you guys ever driven through one of those, like the 3-lane traffic circles?
Yes.
Yeah.
Seriously, where?
I think in Massachusetts. If it wasn't 3 lanes, it was 2 lanes, but I believe at least one of them that we drove through on our way to like Cape Cod was a 3-lane traffic circle.
Yeah, there was like I think it was Virginia or North Carolina. I know we were coming back from Georgia. Coming up, it just blew my mind. I was like, what is happening here? I'm not prepared for this.
I don't know. I'm surprised. I was kind of expecting you guys to say no. I didn't know the USA had taken those up. I thought they were too advanced for you guys.
No, they definitely were. I just was not ready. I saw it.
I mean, I don't know if they're too advanced, but I would say the popular like sort of thought and model on it is like, if you reach one, just go
Yes.
with God and let it, if you were meant to die, then it'll happen for you.
You had it coming.
We get the opposite problem up here, though. We have a few traffic circles in town that like none of them are 2 lanes because it's a town of 25,000 people. Like we'll never
Everybody's
require
too
one
polite.
with 2 lanes. Yeah, but some people stop in the middle of the circle to let other people in.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
Way too
Fucking
polite.
lose my mind.
I believe that's a capital offense here.
Here, yeah.
The secret police just comes and like black bags you and takes you away.
Throws you in a van. Let's go.
Kelly, how about you? How are you doing today?
I'm still getting awake. It's still early morning for me here, but yeah, we're getting awake and we're gonna have a lot of fun today talking about my favorite system
Oh, yeah.
in the universe. So, but yeah, before we do get started today, as always, we do want to give a shout out to our listeners. Without you guys, we would still be talking about games, but we would not be having nearly as much fun doing it. So thank you guys for listening, and know that we love to hear from you. So please leave us a review, follow us on social media, join our Discord server, or if you really love us, you can join our Patreon and support us, and we will love you for that. So
More than life itself, I will love the people who give me money.
So guys, I don't know about you, but this year so far, I've been doing really good, I thought, with gaming. So I was getting through a lot of games, 19 games, and I wasn't buying anything, which was my goal this year, to actually get through that backlog.
Arnie's shaking his head, and so am I.
I've been here before.
And then I was looking today, and it's like nearly the end of April. And this past month, I just fell apart with all of my goals for gaming.
Yep.
It's just like I started Octopath Traveler, not realizing it was a 100-hour game.
Yep.
And
Ooh.
I'm 70 hours
There you
into
go.
that, but no end in sight. And for buying things, well, we all know how that goes. I don't know how you guys have been doing, but Super NT came in this week. We had the Nier Replicant variants coming in this week. It just, I even had a Vita game come in this week. So, guys, how are you guys doing on the collecting front?
Okay, I can't fault you though. Like the Super NT and the Nier Replicant Collector's Edition, that Collector's Edition is really, like, it's so funny. I kind of grade them on how big the box is. And
Yes.
the Nier Replicant one, that's like a 10 out of 10 size box.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's just big and white
big
and
boy.
so clean. Yeah, it looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, what you're experiencing, Kelly, is just the curse of being cool. Because this happens to me every year where I'm like, oh, I'm going to play like 50 games, 60 games. I fucking got this. And I'm like, all right, what am I going to start with? Oh, look, Persona 5. That's 170 hours. Now it's June. I guess I'm playing 3 games this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went on a little bit of a spree. Like last week, this whole year, I've bought like, I don't know, 4 games or something like that. And they were all, I don't think any of them were new either. Like it was all cheap stuff, like Street Fighter versus Tekken for the PS3, right? Like I didn't have that, and I really needed to play Fat Mega Man. So I'm like, all right, I'll dish out the $20 and play Fat Mega Man, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, this past week has just been a shit show. Oh my god.
I've been appalled by you guys. All the spending.
You've been appalled.
Appalled. Like, how you guys, come on. Nah, it's been a good week though. I mean, I think the analog NT kind of just triggered everything, right? I feel like that was the the springboard. Cause
those were the floodgates opening.
And after that,
but I got good
like,
games though, man.
Yeah.
Like I can't complain. Like I finally got, there's just a bunch that were on my list for the longest time. Like, what's it called? Far East of Eden, I think it's called, or something like that. It's like a Mega Man Battle Network kind of clone. I've been wanting that for the longest time, so I got that. I finally got Inazuma 11 for the DS because that had to happen. It's just been on my radar for so long. A soccer RPG. Thank you, sir. May I have another? So stuff like that, or I got Shin Megami Tensei Soul Hackers for the 3DS as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that one's getting
So,
hard to find. Yeah.
Again, stuff that's kind of been on the radar for a long time. Soul Hackers in particular, it's like, all right, I have to get this before it's $500 and just kind of bite the bullet and do it, right?
Yeah. That was one that I ended up getting. I found it at a GameStop like years ago.
Yeah,
I found
yeah.
the like first print run with the soundtrack CD and stuff.
Nice.
For like $15-20, something like that.
Yeah.
I had good pickups this week.
Yeah, you sure did.
Yeah.
Captain
What I picked
Operation
up.
Darkness.
Yeah, I got my $5 Operation Darkness. I also got Nier, like Kelly. I got the original Xbox 360 Nier because I'm always
Hey,
Exactly
as long as you
like
can play
Kelly.
it, right?
I'm always 5 to 7 years behind the curve. But that was like $20. And then I picked up La Mulana, which, have you played that, Paul? Do you know anything about this? I picked it up because it was like the big fat collector's edition, as I bang my microphone like a fucking caveman. For like $20. It was on clearance at GameStop. And they only had the little PS4 thing out, but I looked it up and it was like, when I looked it up on price charting, it's like, no, this is like the version with the big box and all this stuff. And I'm like, there's no way they're going to have all that shit. And so I go up to the guy and I'm like, yeah, it's like, this is supposed to be like a big box or whatever. Do you have that? And the guy's like, oh, let me check. And he's like, oh yeah, we got it right here. And he pulls out this like giant, it's got like a 2 CD soundtrack, an art book, a puzzle, like all sorts of crazy shit inside of it. So I was like, all right, I will take that. I don't know what it is,
so.
but like Paul, it has a big box, a pretty big box. So I'm gonna buy it and see if it's any good.
Yeah.
I've really had to cut down on the large boxes because there was a period of time like 3-4 years ago, I want to say, where I'm like, ooh, big box, ooh, big box. I like that game.
Yeah.
I like big boxes. So why wouldn't I, spend the extra money? And then I realized, oh, wait, I have nowhere to put all the big boxes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I've got one closet that's just full of big boxes. I think the
oh
largest.
my God, a closet.
I think the largest one is the Witcher 3 Collector's Edition. That box is.
Yeah.
You could fit a small child in that if you wanted to ship them out. That one is huge.
The big boxes are wasted on me, man. Like, I truly do not open any of the good stuff. The art books I'll page through every once in a while, but like the statues, like I don't care about any of that stuff.
I have.
That's why I don't
all
own
out.
very many, because I'm like, I'm not gonna open this. But when I see one for cheap, I'm like, I have that big box. Anybody remember? I think it was like Splinter Cell Double Agent. I'm probably gonna be wrong, and somebody's gonna yell at me about this. But there was this one like collector's edition that came with like sort of a bomber
control
plane.
Yeah.
It was like a remote control type of bomber plane.
I have
Yeah,
that.
I remember that.
Huge. Is it Splinter Cell? Is that what
It's
it is?
Splinter Cell, yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm not an idiot.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
The only reason I remember that one is that I had to move it around Best Buy like everywhere because no one was buying it. That one and the original Titanfall, I think, was the other one that had
Titanfall,
like the huge statue in it.
I still
remember
have that
like
one.
I must have been like Modern Warfare 2 or something. Had like an edition that came with a pair of like night vision goggles.
Yeah.
Wow, man, they were just going nuts with this shit.
This stuff.
No, Resident Evil has always been the fucking worst at this. I want to say it was like a remake of 4 or something. It had a special edition that was like $2,000 where they would give you like a replica of Leon's leather jacket or something.
Wow.
Which I was like,
Can I afford that?
Yeah, I was like,
Can I make
if I
this
put this
work?
on my credit card now, I have to pay it a couple months from now.
A jacket I won't wear. Like the Persona 5 special edition, it came with like a little backpack, from the from the high school that they're
Still
at.
in
that I
the
can't remember.
thing, yeah.
But I'm like, I'm not gonna use the backpack. Come on now. But Morgana, I took her out or him. I always say her, but like it's him.
Yeah.
It sounds like a girl, but yeah.
It really does, actually. And my Persona Q2 collector's edition, I opened that one up. I'm like, fuck it, because it had a little Koromaru.
Oh my God.
Right now. And so Koromaru sits on my desk now, keeping me company. Sorry, it's worth it. Like I know that this stuff loses value when you open it, but
Yeah.
I want Koromaru on my desk.
Yeah, I've got that. I've got that collector's edition too, but it's still sealed.
Of course it is. I knew yours would be.
Mine is open, but I haven't taken out Koromaru or anything.
I would love to open them all, but with the prices nowadays, it's just you look there and it's like, hey, if you break this little piece of plastic, you lose $200, and it's just
I know, it's brutal. It's brutal. It really sucks. I have, and now with Switch games, just regular ass Switch games hitting 3 figures, I have a few. I have one Switch game in particular that is worth like $100 now, and it's sealed. And I'm like, well, I kind of want to play it. I've been wanting to play it now for a year, and a few weeks ago I was like, all right, let's crack this one open. And then I happened to notice the price on it, and I'm like, God damn it! Now what do I do with this?
Yes.
Well, you do what I do, is you go out and you find like a $5 copy of it just lying around somewhere, and you buy that.
You're so optimistic.
Oh, yes.
But then again, you have reason to be, because you just picked up Operation Darkness for. Dude, I couldn't believe how expensive Operation Darkness for the
I couldn't
360
either.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
I don't
Because
know.
I've been talking it up on this fucking podcast.
Oh,
and people
that's
finally
it.
It's
realize.
true, dude. It's the Arnie Jesus effect, really, is what it is.
It's like a broken strategy RPG where you play werewolves fighting Nazi vampires. Yes, you should pay $80 for this game.
But you kind of should. It's so bad, but it's like, listen to that description. It doesn't matter how good the game is. What's not to love?
I have regrets though. I should have the one collector's edition that will always stand out in my mind. It's not even like a really nice one or really stupid. Like it's kind of a stupid one. It's the Devil Summoner one where it had Jack Frost in the Rido outfit, like the black sort of hat and cloak. Saw it at my local GameStop back like 10, 15 years ago, whatever. Sitting there for like $20 for the longest time. I was like, I can't justify that. And then now it's like I can't find it. You know,
I know,
whatever.
dude. It's we all have. I have, more than a handful of those where I'm like, I remember when I saw that for $40, and I was like, $40? Come on now. And now it's like 400 or whatever.
Yeah. Can I tell you one story before we get started? Because I don't want to delay too long, but
Please.
I feel like this story is appropriate. How I'm the complete opposite of Kelly. I remember it must have been like 2011 or 2012. I was still in Puerto Rico, and they had this was like the inaugural like Puerto Rico Comic Con, basically.
Oh, cool.
I was walking around, and I managed to find a copy of Devil Summoner 1. I found it for it must have been like $15, $20. It was not like a super expensive game, but I was like on the hunt for Shin Megami Tensei stuff actively. So I was like, fuck yeah, I bought it. And then that day we were going to go, one of the guests who was signing autographs was Johnny Yong Bosch. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he's the voice of like Ichigo on Bleach. He was actually the voice of Yu in Persona 4.
Oh, cool.
He was the Black Power Ranger for a time. And so I go up to him and I'm like, fuck, I didn't bring my Persona 4. Like, I want him to sign something. Like, I want him to sign, like, something, like, important. Like, I don't want him to just sign a piece of paper that I'm going to throw away or something. So I was like, what would be hilarious is if I have him sign my Devil Summoner, a game that he's not in, because then I would have the only copy of Devil Summoner signed by Johnny Yong Bosch. And so I did. And so now my copy is probably worth significantly less than a normal complete in box copy because I defaced it with a Sharpie signature.
I do wonder, actually, like what kind of effect that would have on the value. Because to someone like me, the irony is worth money.
That's hilarious.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like that's really funny. I have the only copy signed by a dude who's not even in the game. Like
he was so confused when I handed it to him. All right. Not the strangest thing somebody's asked me to sign, I'm sure.
Oh man.
Okay, well, now that we've got all that out, we can get started with today's Vita episode. Vita has been a huge influence on my life for the past decade. I was actually looking at it. Past decade, how the time flies.
Decade?
Yes. So I've been collecting for this system, and just, it's my largest collection by far in the game room. But PlayStation Vita. So if we're talking about the PlayStation Vita, how it got started, it is the successor to the PSP, Sony's second handheld system we've got with the Vita. And the rumors for this system started around 2009, and they intensified through 2010. Things weren't really announced until later on, but there was a private conference that was held internally that revealed the system, and the dev kits went out at that time. The system was originally announced as the next generation portable at a press conference on January 27th, 2011. So, Paul, I've got to ask you, when did you first hear about the PlayStation Vita?
Oh my God. I didn't have my finger on the pulse of the industry at that time. There was kind of like a lull of a few years where I wasn't really following things. So I knew the Vita existed, but if you asked me to point to when I first heard about it, I wouldn't be able to. The thing that I remember most, though, about the first time I heard about it was, and I'm sorry, the terrible name. I thought, why didn't they just call it the PSP2 and go with their usual naming convention? Because the PSP wasn't a runaway hit, but it also wasn't unsuccessful. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So to me, I thought, yeah, PSP2, that's great. And even when I was talking about it with my friends before they announced the name, I was like, yeah, PSP2. Mm-hmm. But then they announced it as Vita, and I was like, I don't know about that, guys. But then I said the same thing about the Wii, and we all know how that turned out. So,
and Anthony, how about you?
I think I was pretty on it. Like when they announced it, I remember definitely pre-ordering it, and you would appreciate this, Kelly. I pre-ordered it from Best Buy.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. I had like a bunch of like reward certificates that I applied to it, so I was in. I was so in.
Okay. Did you get them legally though? Or are these Jeffrey bucks again? Jeffrey dollars?
I don't know. Listen, we don't need to talk
the underground
about
economy.
We don't want to talk about the illegal stuff that happened in the past. Okay, Jeffrey is a thing of the past. Unless he's on the podcast, he's cool.
There's a little thing called statute of limitations, Paul.
You can't touch me, man. You can't touch me. This was strictly legal, though. I promise you.
Now, if you pre-ordered it, did you get the pre-order early edition, or did you get the regular edition that came out?
I got the early edition with the 3G powerhouse that bad boy was.
Oh yes, heck yeah.
Yeah, I love that because I did the same thing with the PSP. I got the launch day edition, so it came with my Spider-Man 2 UMD, my headphones, the case. I still have that thing. I still love that thing. So when this came out, I was like, I got to get the launch edition one. I have to get this thing. And
the PSP with the Spider-Man 2 UMD is such a specific aesthetic of a moment in time.
Yes, it is. And it was
just like,
that was so good. I would be watching. I don't know how many times I watched Spider-Man 2, which is on my commute to work because I could now. But yeah, Kelly, I'm with you, Paul, too. I was confused about the Vita naming. I thought when they came out with the name, I was like, fucking Sony, man.
Yeah. You had it, guys.
You had it right there. I didn't think the PSP was a flop. I thought it was perfectly good. I just felt like, it needed the next evolution, like Nintendo with the Game Boy and such. It needed just keep going. No, they changed the name on that thing. And I'm like, ugh. But, I was still excited about it. It was definitely a thing that I couldn't wait to get my hands on it because I felt like it, regardless of the name, it was a great evolution of the PSP. So if you just threw out the naming convention, you just knew okay, this is where this tech needs to go. This is where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how about you, Arnie? When did you first hear about the PlayStation Vita?
I was at the private conference that they held internally.
you had the dev kit?
Yeah. No. I think I was sort of in Paul's boat where I heard rumblings. I knew there was something coming. And I was aware that it was the PS Vita or whatever. I kind of disagree. I kind of like the name. I'm probably objectively wrong given the course of history.
And how often you are wrong generally. Yes.
But I thought it was cool. I was like, oh, Vita. That sounds mysterious and I want to know what's going on here. But it wasn't until I actually saw it in the flesh, at a GameStop, that I was like, oh, okay, this is what it is. And I think for a while I was kind of am I getting a 3DS? Am I getting a Vita? Where am I leaning towards? And then Devil Summoner came out and Fire Emblem Awakening came out, and I was like, all right, well,
yeah.
Gotta go
that's all she wrote on that.
Right.
But ever since then, I was deathly curious about it. I was always like, I really want to get my hands on it. I got Persona 4 Golden, not owning a Vita. I was like, gotta have this game.
Very
gotta hold on to this. Did not get the collector's edition. Another regret.
Oh, same here.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the Vita was sort of always in the periphery of my collecting wants. Eventually, I did end up finding a fat model at a garage sale that I owned for a little bit. And now I have my nice blue.
Oh, nice.
Oh, very pretty.
That
slim
blue
model.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that
so
blue
good.
one. Yeah.
It's such a shame that we didn't get as many colors of the Vita as Japan got. They got some really nice colors. I think I think the red one is exclusive, or maybe the orange is exclusive to them.
I love that one.
Gorgeous.
Yep.
Yeah. They got a lot of special edition models too. Final Fantasy, Danganronpa, you name it. They had a system for it over there. Yeah.
Damn, man. When I went there last year, right before COVID, every game store I went to, and I went to a lot, as you might imagine, but all the special edition Vitas, even the PSPs, I just wanted to, I wanted to buy all of them. But I mean, obviously I can't, but maybe next time, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll see how many things I can justify to my wife.
I do own my Persona Q 3DS, which is my favorite special edition they ever did.
Great 3DS. I know, dude. I wish I had that one. I have the Mario and Luigi one.
Ooh,
and so when when I did see the Persona Q one, I was like, I already have one. I can't buy another one. But that was a tough one. That was a tough one not to buy because it's a really cool looking system. But
there was something about the way the Vita is cut, like the way because it's like a shinier sort of plastic. I don't know if it's like coated in something or whatnot, but it just looks like the finish on it looks much nicer and brighter and cleaner.
It's coated in love.
Not from Sony. Definitely not. But when you see those special editions, they really like pop at you.
Yeah, they do.
And I think they had a little bit more space to work with back here than Nintendo did on the 3DS tops. So a lot of those special editions are gorgeous.
Yes. Well, as for me, strangely enough, I was never into the PSP. So I didn't even have a PSP. It was my then boyfriend, now husband, that had the PSP, but I barely played it. So when the next generation portable was announced, honestly, it just flew under my radar for the longest time. Yeah. I honestly didn't even think of the system until it came out. A few weeks before it came out, I was working at Best Buy. We got 3 systems in that we had to wear around our necks and demo to everyone that happened to walk in the store.
Oh my god! People were reaching towards your chest to like...
Well, we could take it off, of course. But
Okay.
They gave us lanyards, and we just had to have it on there. We had a Little Deviants was the game that was in there. So whenever it was slow and we were in the gaming area, because we weren't supposed to leave our area, we would just sit there playing the Vita for hours. And that's
you poor thing.
No, right?
What a hard day of work.
Did they put you in pens in between shifts? Like, what the fuck was happening at Best Buy?
It's like, stay in your area. Let the people in computers
keep playing video games. Don't you dare leave there. Yeah. Okay.
Fucking the robot from RoboCop was gonna show up. Identify yourself. Where is your area?
Well, it came out at the perfect time for when I was at Best Buy because they were pushing for gaming. That was when they were basically calling GameStop. What was it? They were calling GameStop like Mighty Mouse, and we were Superman, and we were Best Buy as Superman was going to punch and beat up Mighty Mouse. It was
That's great.
That was in the training for the gaming section
awesome.
of Best Buy.
That's so corporate. I love
it. So they were really big into the gaming, so they wanted us just sitting there demoing the Vita all day long.
Wow. My goodness.
They put you in the gaming section. They couldn't do like, oh, we're Mario and they're Bowser or something.
No, no. It was Superman and Mighty Mouse.
Not even another human of some sort, just a mouse.
Yes.
And I love how like they had you guys like with the Vitas attached around your neck. I don't think they would have attempted that in New York for some reason. I think somebody somewhere would have had an idea like, if I just yank that thing and run out of here. Man,
that's a free Vita.
Yeah, the PS Vita.
So the hardware on the Vita, basically when it was announced, it was going to have PlayStation 3 quality graphics, but they had to later clarify that because they couldn't quite make the PS3 graphics on that Vita. One of the quotes I found from David Coombs was that, well, it's not going to run at 2 gigahertz like the PlayStation 3 because the battery would last 5 minutes and it would probably set your pants on fire.
Liar.
I just love that.
Liar.
This is how far we've come in the corporate world that in the 90s, Sega would have actively been like, it will set your pants on fire.
Yes.
As like a positive.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm buying that thing now.
Sega does what Nintendo don't. Set your pants on fire.
Collector's edition comes with new pants.
That you'll never take out of the box anyway.
Yes. Well, now they're worth like $1,500. I gotta get them.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, the 3rd-degree burns were well worth it.
Of course. They also said that they were going to make the PlayStation Vita between the mobile world and the handheld gaming to make a futuristic console that will do both. They had front and rear facing touchscreens and cameras, 2 analog sticks, and they were going to have a mix of digital download and retail games. And of course, one thing you can't forget about the Vita at launch was that OLED screen.
That's right.
Gotta love that OLED screen.
It was a beauty.
So crispy, so nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't notice the difference.
Oh my goodness.
Dissenting opinion.
Have you seen them side by side?
Yeah.
I've never put them side by side,
Okay.
but why would I? Because I don't have the one with the OLED screen, so I don't want to know how bad mine is. But with that said, like I've seen the other one and I've seen mine, the slimmer one, separately. I think mine's awesome. So you guys who talk about the OLED screen, you can keep it.
I initially wanted to get the slim version, right? Because I just like to get the updated model and stuff. But then when I see differences like that, even if it's something minor, that from screen to screen, I'm like, nah, I can't get rid of this one. I got to keep this one right now. And from what I heard, you really couldn't tell the difference. But just knowing in my head that the screen on the launch unit was just going to be a little bit better, I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I kind of agree with Paul. I had an OG one with the OLED screen and it looked really nice, but the charger on it died for me, and like it was a whole odyssey. It's sitting in a drawer, sort of half taken apart at this point. I need to fix it. But when I got the Slim, I honestly, and I wear glasses, so this is clearly to be taken with a grain of salt, as I am legally blind, probably. There was a dip, but it wasn't noticeable enough that I was like, oh fuck, like I really miss the OLED screen.
Yeah.
And I just felt like the Slim fit a little bit better in my hands as well. It was a little more ergonomic for me, at least.
Yeah.
Kelly, but you disagree with this, don't you?
Well, I have both, so I can put them side by side and see the difference. And my one of choice is the OG, the OLED screen, because you can see the difference if you've seen them side by side. But it's like anything else, right? If you don't know what you're missing, you're not going to miss it. So
yeah. 2 out of 4 podcasters agree.
She's hosting, so she gets an extra vote.
That's true.
There we go.
True.
So tiebreaker, we win. And then the last part of the Vita that we have is that they dropped the UMD finally. I don't know how you guys felt about the UMDs, but for me, it was just so clunky just hearing that the disc loading every single time.
Me and Paul have talked about this before, where because I didn't own a PSP contemporaneously, Ozzy actually ended up gifting me one later. And when I loaded it up, I was like, all right, time to play like some, I don't know, some like Trails game or something. And I popped it in and it's just like, Jesus! Like I thought it was destroying my UMD as I was playing it.
Dude, it's so charmingly loud. Like when I fire it up, I think it's gonna open like a dimensional portal or something. Like it just makes this noise. I have no idea what's happening. But
it sounds like the tiniest, most adorable jet engine I've ever seen.
Yes, that's an excellent way of describing it. Ultimately, however, I think our lives are better off without it.
Yes. I think that the change to a cartridge system was a great idea. The one thing I did not agree with is what they decided to do with those memory cards. So they decided instead of having a universal memory card, it was going to be proprietary. And as we might get to later, that was probably one of the biggest mistakes that they made.
Yeah.
As far as the UMD goes, I am sad that it no longer exists. The same way I'm sad that like Laserdiscs no longer exists because they're so dumb and ridiculous. And I enjoy that a company at one point was like,
"This is the future."
We
nailed
it. Nobody ever thought about this. But we did. Yeah. We're ahead of the game here. But yes,
the UMD just kind of like hit that sweet spot though between when we could fit a ton of memory onto a little, SD card and when we couldn't. Yeah. So if the PSP had come out like 2 years later, we're probably looking at actual like SD cards or whatever Sony's proprietary storage medium of choice during the day would have been. Mm-hmm. But instead we got the UMD, which is fine, whatever.
Mm-hmm. And then we got an upgrade with the Vita.
And then the memory stick, I mean, for me at least, and I'm sure we'll touch on it later, but just kept me from getting that system forever. Especially because they would never get any cheaper. It's one of those things where Sony was like, these will never go on sale. These will never be any less than like, what was it, like $30 for like a 4 gigabyte thing or something?
Brutal, it was. Brutal. It wasn't because the launch edition one came with it came with the memory, but otherwise it didn't come. You couldn't even really play anything, right, without that
Yeah.
memory. Yeah, that was.
It was sort of a thing where, like, if you were serious about Vita, I felt like you had to buy the Vita, and then you had to buy, like, the 64 gigabyte, like the biggest one they had, which was, like, I think, like $120.
It was $100, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're already, this is like, what, a $400 investment? Like, I'll get
Before
a PS3
you could even play a
something.
game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just get a 360 for like $200.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. All right. Well, now that we've gotten through the Vita, the announcement, and how the Vita worked, I think it's a great time to take a break. And when we get back, we will get to the launch of the system. And we're back talking about the PlayStation Vita launch. So, the PlayStation Vita launched in Japan on December 17th, 2011, and a few months later on February 22nd in Europe and North America. There was a version in America that was released 1 week earlier. As Anthony mentioned earlier, he had pre-ordered. That one came with a 3G system, a little
3G?
maintenance, a case, and a 4 gig card for the low price of $350 USD.
Was it really 350?
When you say
I don't
that.
even
Yes.
remember. I was like, wait, I paid that much? What was wrong with me?
I like to think that the week early launch edition was just so we could have it before Europe did. I like to
Yeah,
think
probably.
that's that important to us.
Fair enough.
Yes. Yes. And I seriously do remember the launch day because I was working at Best Buy, and since I was a gaming supervisor there, we decided to do something really kind of crazy. And do you remember the mobile hotspots that you could get?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With your cell phone? We decided to see if we could get someone to buy a mobile hotspot with their 3G Vita.
What the
Wow.
And we managed to get 2 of them.
Oh my
Oh
Man.
my god. Was one of them Anthony? I feel like it would have been.
Maybe. I don't know.
Some people were so eager to game on that 3G network that they bought the mobile hotspot.
Blazing 3G speeds.
Yes.
We've added
man.
so many G's.
I know.
since,
We're close to doubling our G's at this point, you know?
Yes.
We really
Yeah.
are, yeah. Every once in a while when I'm out in the middle of nowhere up here, the reception goes down to 3G.
Yeah.
And this technology that I thought was a miracle 10 years ago, I lose my mind. I can't stop swearing at it now. I'm like, oh my god, 3G! Why is this so slow?
3G barely lets you text. Like, if
Yes.
that's it. I think it's a word limit too. Like, you can only type 3 words and that's it. Anything more than that.
In the world where I'm texting my mom like entire movie, like theatrical release movies in like 10 seconds, and back at like 10 years ago, I was like, I'm gonna send you a picture, so I need you to like shut all your devices down, make sure that you're perfectly like 35 degrees away from the living room window so you get the best cell phone reception.
But honestly, when we were looking back at the PlayStation Vita at the time, it was considered to have a really strong launch lineup of games.
Yeah.
We've been talking lately about like the Nintendo systems and how they come out with 2 or 3 games and better like those games or that's it for you for a while. Well, the Vita had over 20 games.
Insane.
Yes.
I don't believe you.
Believe me, I was there. But yeah, there was an Uncharted game. Wipeout there was a Wipeout port.
Yep.
Rayman Origins, along with a lot of sports ports. Yes, a lot of them were ports from other systems, but still, there was just about something for everyone.
If I had bought a brand new system and I turned around and there's 20 games available for it, I would have thought that I had fallen into cryo sleep and it was like a year and a half after release or something.
Right.
When did did this come out?
Vita actually had really strong sales that first week, but then they very quickly dropped off. So at the end of February 2012, there was only a 1.2 million sold worldwide. And by the end of 2012, which 11 months later, there was only 4 million that were sold. At launch, there was a lot of high-profile titles that were in development. Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified, Assassin's Creed, Gravity Rush, Persona 4 Golden, but none of them managed to sell any systems. Except, of course, to me, because for me, I always have a rule in my head with systems where I have to have 5 games that are only available on that system before I'll play or I'll buy that system. So for me, I think it was Gravity Rush was the 5th one that came out that I was like, okay, I want Gravity Rush, I want Persona 4 Golden, because it was an upgrade, not the same game in my head.
Yep.
And like Uncharted, there was just 5 games at that point, so I managed to buy that system at that point. But apparently I was one of the few who did that. By the end of 2012, many Western developers actually stopped support of the system. So launch year, at the end of the year, they were already stopping support for the system. A lot of the rumored titles that were supposed to come out in 2013 and 14 were canceled. One of the big ones, there was a BioShock title that was supposed to be in development, but they took a look at the system sales and said, nope, not going to bring it out.
Man.
Then in 2013 and 14, there were still a few titles, such as Tearaway, Killzone Mercenaries, and the God of War collection, but still they did not manage to sell any systems. I can remember, I think it was in 2014, Tearaway, a few weeks after release, was $9.99.
Yeah.
Because it just was not selling.
I remember that. Was it, and I don't know if you know this, Kelly, off the top of your head, or if this is later on in the episode, but was this like a really difficult system to program for? Was Sony just like not really trying to get people to support it a lot? What was the deal with within a year people being like, I'm done. I'm not going to develop any games for this?
It just seemed like, I can't even remember at Best Buy, after the first 2 days, no one was coming in for the system. I think we'll get into a lot later with why the system failed, but you had the 3DS, you had mobile phones, and it was just like, why do I need a dedicated gaming system when I could just go that way?
That's a good point. People don't really think, we make fun of mobile gaming and whatnot, but if I could download some free game from the App Store, why am I paying $350?
Yeah.
To buy a Vita.
Yeah, I mean, it's just if you're just a casual gamer at this point, the app stores are just blazing in 3G speeds. So it's like, why not just do that? But like I didn't even realize like we would just talk about price points on this thing. I didn't even remember how much it cost. So at that entry point, it's, should I buy a cell phone or should I buy a Vita?
Yeah.
Or it's, I already have a cell phone.
Right.
Why do I need a dedicated gaming system?
Yeah. And then you got to have the 3DS because you got to get Mario. Nobody else has Mario.
Well,
That's how they get you, man.
It's weird because, 3DS, Mario games is not why I bought that system.
I know. I have 0 Mario games for both my DS and 3DS.
Oh, I have some Mario games. You didn't have what do I have on my 3DS? 3D World. Oh, wasn't there a 3D Worlds port?
3D
or no,
Land.
not 3D Worlds. It was
3D
like
Land.
Yeah, 3D Land. That's it. That was pretty good.
Sure.
Sure. We'll agree to disagree.
You don't have Luigi's Mansion on the 3DS?
Oh, shit.
That is.
Boom. Got you, motherfucker.
Actually, don't. No.
Gobble, gobble.
I do have it. I've got it for the GameCube. I don't have it for the 3DS. That said, I actually would like to own it for the 3DS.
Yeah.
And I
was
probably
meant to
pick
make
it up.
you a fool, but I made a fool of myself.
So typical episode.
God damn it.
Anyhow.
Yeah,
right.
So after 2014, pretty much Sony redirected the Vita. They decided that they weren't going to make any more real AAA games for it. Instead, they reached out to smaller developers. that usually developed PC and mobile games to develop for the Vita. This kept the cost of the games lower, and the cost to port the games over from a mobile system was low, so they were still able to turn a profit. That's pretty much the only reason the Vita survived as long as it did, was because of this switch in focus. The other thing, there was a man called Sahid Ahmed. He was the director of strategic content. He made sure to reach out on social media, try to get interest for the Vita going again. One of the big ports that we did end up getting was due to his interactions on social media, and that was the Tales of Hearts R. That game was... It was directly through his effort that the game came out here. I don't know, have any of you played Tales of Hearts R?
No,
Paul?
it was on the radar for the longest time, and then I just kind of like... I've got too many games, so something had to kind of, take the hit and not get purchased, even though I kind of wanted it. Yeah. But you have, though, Kelly, right?
Oh, yes. I bought that one on launch day and played through it immediately, which is unusual for me. Usually games sit in the backlog for ever. And as a Tales game, if anyone has ever heard me rage about Tales of Destiny or Tales of the Abyss, both of those games are... not games I enjoy, but Tales of Heart are, while the story was a little okay, the gameplay was amazing, and it was the fact that they managed to get this game to come out on the Vita, I think, is a really good thing.
Yeah, it's the beauty and the curse of the Vita, right? That it died almost immediately, but then all these smaller developers were like, we're gonna release our very niche and good RPGs on here, like right at the last minute. So now if you want to get into the Vita, you're gonna pay a pretty penny to get the good games on it.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. After the switch in focus happened, that's when all your niche developers started to bring out the games. I'd say half of my collection comes from Idea Factory, comes from NIS America, Axis Games. Those developers really got to thrive on the Vita because while it did have a smaller fan base, it was extremely dedicated fan base.
The games owned per system sold on the Vita is kind of ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah, Nice America is my number one, I hate you developer for just being like, oh, here's a game they came out with 7 years ago that I didn't hear about. I wonder what it's... Okay, I'm not gonna own that game. That's fine.
Arno search.
I didn't have my finger on the pulse at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
It seemed like every other week I was going on their website and it's like, hey, here's a new collector's edition. Buy it now or later on you're going to be paying a pretty penny for it.
Yeah.
So, and this also was why the Vita has a lot of the niche games. So you have JRPGs. There's really strange... lewd games on it. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Gal Gun.
Yes.
Or
oh, that's too far even for me, man. I can't. Yeah,
that was a huge Let's Play game. There was just a time in the YouTube landscape where it was Gal Gun, Hoonie Pop, all these insane, inappropriate games.
Hoonie Pop?
Hoonie Pop.
Yes,
I've never heard of this.
No. Well, you're gonna have a nice time on YouTube when you discover the beauties, the beauty of matching bejeweled pieces to make girls fall in love with you. It's really a magical experience.
Also, like Kododama, the 7 Mysteries of Fujisawa.
Yes, if Kododama was M-rated instead of teen-rated.
Yeah, fair enough.
And there was also the one game that actually started bringing into focus the fact that Sony was starting to censor things over here in the West, and that was Omega Labyrinth. It was going to be brought out here in the West by P-Cube. They were going to bring it here. They had it pass ESRB ratings, but it is a very lewd game. You have a girl that every time she fights, her boobs get bigger, and it's ridiculous.
It's crazy, man.
It got through the ESRB, but then Sony said, "You can't release that here. It's not what we want." And that's, for me, what started bringing into focus the fact that Sony is starting to censor things over here in the West.
Yeah. And the fanboys wept.
Yes, the fanboys wept. And then Nintendo a few years later said, oh, bring the sequel onto the Switch. We don't care anymore. So that was just a switch in focus there where Sony's censoring things and Nintendo saying, hey, bring it out here. We're okay with it.
Really, one of the more bizarre developments of the past 5 years is Nintendo's kind of hands-off attitude towards fan service in their games, and Sony just kind of suddenly putting the clamps on. It's really weird.
Just let people play what they want, man.
Yeah.
It's not for me. I would give a lot to be in that pitch meeting, though. like the creative team behind that. Yeah.
Think of the Incredible Hulk, but instead,
this is definitely one of those meetings that was started off by remember, there are no bad ideas here, and the one guy's arm just shot up. He's like, me, I have something.
And then the last genre that started getting a really big foothold on the Vita that probably wouldn't have made it anywhere else, but is now starting to make it everywhere else, is visual novels.
Yes.
Small, I mean, a lot of people think not a lot of work goes into porting them over to English, but if you think about it, the amount of text that they have to translate and bring out.
It's staggering.
Yes.
You're translating a couple novels worth of text, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So visual novels, the ecchi games, and JRPGs are what thrive the most on the Vita.
Yeah.
And then one more thing I attribute to the Vita is the rise of limited run games.
Yep.
Love them or hate them, they got their start on the Vita.
Yep.
With the release of Breach and Clear on
That's
October 29th, 2015. Now, Anthony, had you heard of limited run games at that point, or did you hear about them later?
I heard about them later because it really just once I started getting involved in Instagram is when I really started hearing about all these things that I felt like I was living in a bubble apparently, in gaming bubble, and there was a whole world out there. But yeah, that now I'm fully aware now of limited run games.
Yeah.
And Paul, how about you?
I heard about them maybe after their fourth release.
Yeah.
So I did get Soldner X2 for the Vita through them.
Okay.
And Rainbow Moon.
Okay.
So I was on them pretty early, and then eventually kind of fell off a bit once, we've talked about this ad nauseum on Discord. But I was on them pretty early, and I was happy because I had a Vita and I liked my Vita and I wanted more games for the Vita. Yeah. And here we are. Limited Run was providing something for a market that demanded it. So yeah, I was happy that they were around back then.
Oh yes, same with me. How about Arnie? How about you?
I think Saturday Morning RPG was the first release from them I had heard of. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, but I didn't own a Vita at that time, I don't think, or if I did, I wasn't playing it very much. And it was sort of I'm just not the kind of guy to get on my computer to do one of these timed pre-order things. It's irritating. That's just not my bag. I'll get up early to go to a flea market and dig through dirt encrusted boxes to find a Black Bass on the Super Nintendo, but I won't, I won't put 2 seconds of effort into getting a game that's probably going to be worth something in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you put it that way, boy, oh boy, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, for me, I had actually, at that point in time, that's when I really started getting into collecting for the Vita. I had actually heard of Breach and Clear through a website called Cheap Ass Gamer.
Oh yeah,
it's still around.
How ironic!
Yes, and one of the two owners of Limited Run Games used to post on there all the time, Josh. So he talked about Breach and Clear on there, and I took a look at the game and I said, that looks like crap. I'm not going to buy it. So I missed their first release, not because I didn't know about it, because I looked at the game and said, that's not for me, and moved on. So,
but you're right, though. It looks awful, and it's worth, a mint now. Yeah. But, oh, God. I had the same reaction. I saw it, and I was like, I don't really think I need this game.
Yeah.
I actually discovered Cheap Ass Gamer as well. I want to say a little later than this. But that's how I got my Retron 5 for $40 at Urban Outfitters.
What the fuck?
They were clearancing them out because I guess they realized that maybe video games aren't their bag. So they
Wow.
were, and these things were like still, relatively new. Like
Yeah.
you could still
Yeah.
buy one at full retail.
Yeah.
And I tracked down an Urban Outfitters. I must have gotten on the subway in DC or something and hauled my ass to Urban Outfitters to buy this thing for $40.
That's awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, cheap ass
I
gamer.
still own it.
That was my go-to spot, man. That website.
yes.
I remember even before like a Black Friday, like they would start releasing all the stuff and where you could get them.
Yep.
And I'm just like,
Oh, yes.
I'm just like printing out and cataloging and highlighting. Like, all right, I got to hit this website at this time. This.
Gotta go
Yeah,
here to get this game, but it's $5 cheaper.
Right,
over here.
yeah.
So,
I went to another one was I think I bought Rodea the Sky Soldier on 3DS at Toys R Us because it was like $20 or something.
Man,
Because it
Oh,
was like
man,
the
it's-
little first run printed. Tried to play it. I was like, this game's bad.
I know, $20 too much.
I think my best score that happened through Cheap Ass Gamer, I put it on Instagram recently, but I can remember, and this shows how long I've been on this website, but they mentioned the fact that Zelda Minish Cap was on clearance at Sears for $20.
Wow, I remember this post of yours too. Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't realize they have been around that long.
Oh yeah, they've been around forever, and they used to do a lot of trading just right through the website. But at
Really?
this point, it's all moved online. But
Yeah.
I got Zelda Minish Cap through Cheap Ass Gamer,
That's-
$20
at
at
Sears.
Sears.
Yeah.
Kelly,
And-
tell us, is your copy of Minish Cap still sealed?
Yes, because I was a. But there's a good reason for it at this point, because I was a 3DS ambassador. So I actually found out about the price cut on the 3DS.
Yep.
So I bought the 3DS a day before the price drop, got all the ambassador games, and then went back and got the price adjustment for price matching. So
Wow.
I did this exact same thing actually
Look at this. Wow, you guys. This is kind of impressive,
at
actually.
Best Buy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Region Free Gamers does not advocate this kind of behavior.
do as we say, not as we do. So yeah, the Vita does have a very dedicated fan base to this day that just keeps pushing along the games. The production of Vita carts actually ended in the West on March 31st, 2019. That day is a day that NISA once again released 3 games to commemorate the fact that the system was stopping production of carts. So they had the last retail releases, but to this day in PlayAsia is still bringing out Vita games. I actually got one in this week. It's a visual novel called Synergia.
Okay.
And that one's so exactly. I just looked and I was like, "Oh, it's a visual novel. It's from East Asia Soft. It'll probably sell out. I should probably buy it." So
Yeah.
You were 100% right, I'm sure.
I think that one sold out. They're still bringing out, but they did say that they are on their last cartridges, so the last releases from them will be coming soon.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
I love that the crossover between visual novel titles and death metal bands is starting to become like a complete circle now. Like the House at Fata Morgana, is it a visual novel or is it a death metal band? You don't know.
Sounds like a good Jackbox game right there.
Yeah.
So the big thing is that we're trying to figure out is what is going to be the last physical game release. PlayAsia or Limited Run Games, because Limited Run Games has had Super Meat Boy in their possession for about 2 years now, but they refuse to release it. Their copies must be sitting in their office somewhere and they're just flaunting them. And we're trying to figure out if they're holding it back on purpose to bring out as the last Vita physical release.
Oh, I see. So
Yeah.
once PlayAsia gets through their stock of
Yeah.
cartridges, then Limited Run can release Super Meat Boy
Yeah.
and say, this is the
final-
last release for the
Yes.
Vita. Come on, guys. Come on. That's JV, man.
Until some guy sitting on like 3 blank carts makes like his indie release in like
Yeah.
2027. It's like, here you go.
I have to admit, when they first announced that, like, they weren't manufacturing any more carts in 2019, I was like, all right, well, it's over,
Yeah.
right? Like, I
Yeah.
thought, a couple months later, we wouldn't see any more Vita games. And it's 2021, and I'm going through PlayAsia's website. I'm going through Video Games Plus, and I see like tons of Vita titles. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I thought this was over. You know, like I didn't really realize just how much stock they had of these cartridges to print on. But yeah, I guess they do, because they just keep cranking out, you know, visual novels.
Visual novels and mobile ports, it seems like, mostly, yes.
Yeah.
All right, and the last thing we want to touch on before the break is the hardware revisions. So, hardware revisions for the Vita, there was one. Came out in 2014, so here we are only 2 years into the system's lives, and they were already bringing out a cheaper version. Cheaper because it had a more plasticky feel to it. It had a better form factor, at least for most people. I still prefer the OG. Had a better battery life, and it switched that OLED screen to LCD. It also had 1 gig of onboard memory, so for once you could at least play a game or two before you needed to buy one of those super expensive memory cards. And then the last revision that we had, the poor PlayStation TV. I don't know if anyone remembers that PlayStation TV, but it was released late in 2013 in Japan, late 2014 in Europe and North America, discontinued in 2015. And by the end of that year, it was clearanced out and you could not find it any longer. So less than 2 years on the market from initial release to discontinued.
So many like great ideas, and yet everything, I guess we'll touch upon this in the next section, but everything seems to have been released kind of at the wrong time. You know what I mean? And in the wrong manner. Like with the PlayStation TV, for example, you know, if they could have sacrificed maybe the 3G and had a way to just hook the Vita up directly to a TV without, you know, the need for a peripheral. I guess I'm just describing a Nintendo Switch at this point, really.
I don't know, Paul. No 3G. I don't know.
That's why he got his mobile hotspot. What is he going to do with that?
Fair enough. Fair. I stand
corrected. The contract
corrected.
on that thing will be up in 10 years, bro. I'm the winner here.
But yeah, like all these good ideas, and it just seemed like the timing was always off. And the PlayStation TV, that's one of them. I'd always meant to get one.
Me too.
But oh well.
Yeah,
I'm not now.
I did get one. I got one when it came out, and it was just completely, I don't know, just useless. I just wound up I wound up getting rid of it like pretty soon after. It was just, I was hoping it was going to be something that I could use as a streaming device, you know, but it just never kind of worked out. It was like you said, it just came out at the wrong time. Like it needed to be further developed, and you know, if you drop something like that, maybe like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that's a hot seller there.
Yeah.
The one big thing about the PlayStation TV that always was weird to me is that a lot of the games that the Vita are known for, you couldn't use on that TV because you needed the touch screens or the cameras to use. So Tearaway, Gravity Rush, those games without a patch online would not work.
Yeah.
And of course that patch is not official. So
we
once again do not recommend you do that, of course.
I keep reading these paragraphs and like all this stuff, and I'm just like, in my head, just like replacing Vita with like Sega CD 32X. Like I'm getting flashbacks of like all this stuff, and it's like one of those where it's like time really is a flat circle, isn't it? Like the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah, I actually do have a Vita TV still here. It isn't hooked up to anything.
Yeah.
It's so tiny, fitting in a drawer is fine. But I didn't get one until it was on clearance because there just didn't seem to be a point. It's a nice little novelty, but...
And you gotta imagine that at this point, people who cared about the Vita and like were invested in it knew what the game was. Like, there's no way this thing will be full priced for very long. Like Sony has taken every opportunity to throw this system under the bus, back up over it, run over it again. Like, you know, any attempt made now
don't look in the corner.
Any attempt made now is not in good faith. Like, I don't trust them anymore.
Well, I mean, like the way they threw this to the side, I don't know how they did the same thing with the PS Move. and somehow that got revitalized accidentally. It seems.
Brought it back?
Yeah.
So they got lucky with that. That was one of those, but that was just another example of them just throwing. They disregarded that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that was their one comeback story. And even then, it isn't, because I remember I got a pair of Move controllers like used from GameStop, but one of them is a PS3 one and one of them is a PS4 one, so they have different charging ports. Luckily, I own a PS3, so I can't, like, I own a PS3 charging cable, so I can charge it. But, like, even then they were like, oh yeah, we're bringing back the Move controllers, but we're releasing a new version that has, like, all these new, like, this new charging port and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to get this one if you only own a PS4. And I'm like, cool. That's dope, guys.
All right. Well, I think it's a great time for a break here. And when we get back, we'll start talking about what happened, why did the Vita fail. So, catch you on the other side. And welcome back, everyone. Now that we are back, we are going to get into probably the most interesting part, at least for me, for this Vita.
And sad.
Sad as well, yes. But that's why the system is so unique to me, I think. But why did it fail? This part I'd like to just more have an open discussion on why we think the system failed. I've got a few of my own opinions as well, of course, but I just want to start with Arnie. Why do you think are some of the reasons that the Vita failed?
I mean, for me, it was front and center the memory card issue. The expense of that and the fact that it never went down. I know that the system was expensive at launch, but that's not the only system that's ever been expensive at launch. You know, people will eventually gravitate to something if it's there and it's worth it. And it seemed to me, just from an outsider looking in, it seemed like it had everything it needed. It had a very good design. Technology-wise, like, the screen was great. The dual analog was a godsend after the PSP.
Yes.
All that stuff was perfect. It had a robust launch lineup. It had games that people wanted to play. But you couldn't justify plunking down an extra $100 to get, like, a moderate amount of memory. And what increasingly, like, very quickly, I believe, became a not very significant amount of memory. So you had to own multiple of these cards, probably, if you were any type of, like, you know, if you had, like, even a modest Vita collection. I would assume that eventually, like, one card wouldn't do it for you. And the fact that Sony just never relented on this proprietary memory stuff and never made it affordable for people, never really gave an inch as far as, like, let's lose a little bit on the memory cards to make a bit on the games, on the software, on the hardware sales of this, just kind of doomed them from the beginning. And they really lost interest so quickly. You know, looking back at the timeline, it's crazy. Like, since the Virtual Boy, I don't think I've ever seen a company cut bait on a system that quickly. Just, like, within a year and a half, probably be like, we're done. Didn't work.
Yeah.
We didn't outsell the 3DS by, like, 1.5 million units out the gate, so this is a failure.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, too, because, like, first of all, they have a history of this, right? Like, we've got the PlayStation Move. We had the PlayStation I think it was, or something like
the
that.
The iToy? Which one? The PS2 one or the PS3 one?
I'm saying, right? Like, so we do have a history of Sony releasing great ideas and then just, like, not following up at all, which is really irritating to a consumer. And I don't think they realize just how much. I mean, to be fair, the PS4 was a runaway hit, so what do I know? Yeah. But, like, that kind of stuff damages your brand, man. Like, and you look over at Nintendo's side, the 3DS, huge success, right?
Right.
Not at first.
Oh, no.
At first, it was, nobody bought it, right? Like, it was priced, I think, similarly to the Vita. It was
$250.
Like $300.
It was $250.
It was $250, something like that.
It was $250 on launch for the 3DS. Nobody bought it. And Nintendo immediately was like, all right, cutting the price, and they slashed it like hard, man. It was like 30-35% price cut. In other territories it was like half price. I think in Japan they just cut it in half straight up. So they realized, okay, this is not doing well, let's do something about it, right? Let's get off our asses. Whereas Sony is like, oof, this isn't doing well, herp-de-derp, we're just gonna leave it as it is, right? Like, what are you guys doing? Be more aggressive, make it affordable.
I mean, they had the hardware remodel. Why not, with that hardware remodel, put an SD card in there instead of their proprietary card?
Oh my god, I hadn't even
Here's
thought
your
about
32
that.
gigabit included SD. Here you go.
Oh,
Boom.
can you imagine how much that would piss off people who own the OG though? Eesh. I mean, like,
you already bought into
Yeah.
it. Like,
I think at that point it would have.
You're not keeping me afloat. It would suck. It'd be a slap in the face. But maybe offer them, like, do an ambassador program. Offer them like a few digital titles or something.
Yeah,
Agree. Yeah.
Smooth
Okay.
it
No,
over.
that's a good idea.
And you don't even
I
have
agree.
to look that far. Like, does anybody remember the back button? Remember the back button?
Oh.
Does nobody remember this? Do you
No.
not remember this, Paul?
No.
Where they released, it was basically like an attachment that would go on the back of your PS4 controller and it would add an extra button to it.
Oh,
And I remember
yes.
when this came out, people like, we got to get the back button. Look at all these back button sales that are happening. And now nobody, like, I've seen it at Best Buy still for like $20 or something. Like, nobody cares. Like, Sony, and it is a thing where mentally, I think I am suffering from that thing that you're talking about, Paul, where I don't know if specifically because of the Vita or just that I've seen Sony do this time and time again, but even the stuff that I like from them, I don't go out and buy it immediately.
Yep.
Because I'm nervous. I don't want to invest in something that they're going to turn around 6 months later and be like, it's over. Like,
Dude,
PSVR
the
is the perfect
PSVR.
example of that.
Yeah.
I didn't buy it for the longest time because I was like, if this comes out, there's like 6 VR games for it, and I'm not going to pay $300 for it. $400, whatever it was when it launched. And then eventually I saw that it had a library. Black Friday came around, $200 with like 5 games. I'm like, all right, I'll snatch that up. I love it. It's one of my favorite things of this gen. But like, I was not going to jump in feet first to that after all the stuff they've done
Certainly
before.
not.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, they're even doing the PSVR revision, and now like here we go again, right? Like I don't know. Are you really gonna take care of this bad boy? Like, because we don't know. You really don't know what Sony's gonna do.
Yeah, and Chris made a very good point in chat. Chris Copleen, Retro Hangover Podcast. He just made a very good point, which is that like Sony had a different memory card. Remember the memory stick duo that they
Yes.
used for like cameras and so on and so forth? So it begs the question, why not just use the memory sticks for the Vita? Because the memory sticks eventually did come down in price.
Yep.
But the Vita ones just never did. So,
They're actually going
like,
up in price now.
Yeah. So why not just like use the memory sticks? Because it's still your proprietary stuff. You don't have to pay any licensing fees or anything like that. Why make one specific for the Vita? It just, God.
Yeah, and now I think there are solutions. Like now there are converters that'll allow you to use a regular SD card in a PlayStation Vita. And when I heard about that, I was actually like, oh shit, maybe I should start buying some Vita games, because if I can affordably have memory in my system reliably, then yeah, I want to buy more Vita games. But if I'm going to have to like struggle every 8 gigabytes to be like, okay, so like, what do I delete now? Like, do I think I'm going to play this game again? Like, what am I,
I think you want Galgun available at all times. Exactly. Having to go back and download it.
No, I want the one, Kelly, help me out here. Which one's the one that's like, it's also like an RPG, but it's about women who transform into cars or something? Or it's like cars.
Drive Girls.
Yes. That's the one I want.
There's also Tattoo Girls. Tattoo Girls, where
What
you
is that
tattoo.
one?
You put tattoos all over girls' body to make them stronger.
Incredible.
I love
That's like
Japan
when I
so
want-
much.
It's like one of the few Vita games I own, because I was just buying when I saw them cheap at GameStop, and I bought, it's called like Conception 2 or something.
Oh, yep.
Yes.
Okay.
I got like 30 minutes into that game and I was like, I'm going to eject this game. I'm going to put it away. Not gonna,
Conception 2, by the way, you basically build a harem to have children with that you raise, and then they fight for you.
I'm always like, when people are like, oh yeah, I own Senran Kagura, but I like hide that. Like, I don't want people to know that I own it. And I'm like, that's not the game you need to worry about, sir. Like, it's games like this where you're like, oh, this looks like a JRPG, like stupid and fun. And then you read it and you're like, oh, okay. Like, this is where we've gone now.
And remember, that is Conception 2, so it is a sequel to another game.
Sequel to the runaway hit Conception 1.
Which I would be remiss to say Conception 2 also on the 3DS. So Nintendo does not get away with that one.
No, they don't.
But yeah, no, ultimately I think more than anything else, it was the memory card issue. For me personally, that was the line in the sand that I was not going to cross for the Vita.
Yeah, it's funny. I never really had that issue with memory cards because I didn't buy it at launch. I bought the Vita in like 2015, I think it was. So by then it was just kind of like the price had come down on them.
Yeah.
And it was still annoying compared to like conventional memory, but it wasn't extremely off-putting.
Yeah, I have a 32 gig card and an 8 gig one. The 32 gig managed to get on sale for half price at some point when they were just starting to slash the price on everything to clearancing them out of the stores, which for me was another reason that the Vita sale failed. I can't remember if it was late 2015 or 2016, but I was part of a Facebook group that was big into Vita, and we just all went nuts because Target was clearancing out everything. So you could go into Target and games that were $40 were on sale for $10, and that's where a lot of my collection came from. But for me, I can remember Best Buy, the last game we ever got in was Odin Sphere, which released in 2016. And we got 2 copies in, and it sat on a shelf with, I think there was 4 other games that we had left at that point. And once those games sold in 2016, you were just looking at an empty 4-foot space that said PlayStation Vita, and there was nothing there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it had quality titles, like stuff like Muramasa the Demon Blade, like stuff like Odin Sphere, Persona 4 Golden. Like, these are good titles that, especially Muramasa, I feel like got a port to the Wii, and I just don't think it looks as good.
It doesn't.
From what I've seen.
The Vita screen is so good and so crisp. Like, Muramasa looks phenomenal on the Vita.
Yeah, so it's not for lack of quality either, you know?
Yeah, I've played Muramasa on both, and the control system on the Wii is just... Well, it's the Wii.
I played it on the classic controller and had a little bit more fun with it.
Yeah.
You know, that thing about the quality of the systems, I think we're running into the same problem that we talked about on our Dreamcast episode. You know, the system launches with 20 plus great games, and then there's nothing. Why not release it with 10 great games, and then you have enough to sustain hype for like 6 to 12 months after that? I think that happened. I think that was a problem, same as it was with the Dreamcast.
Yeah. Well, there were a few big titles that came out, but they flopped big time. If you take a look at Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified, it was hyped, and then it came out, and it was like, I think a 15-minute campaign or something.
Yeah.
Ooh, let's go.
And the problem is the games weren't good. Like, the first party titles that were really hyped, they just weren't actually... Call of Duty's not first party, but like AAA.
Yeah.
They were hyped, but they weren't good. They were like, a lot of them were just kind of crappy PS3 ports, or if they were made for the Vita, they were kind of afterthoughts.
Yep.
I mean, I can't really blame someone like Activision for not pouring resources into this game for a system that doesn't have a huge install base.
Yep.
You know, let's just fulfill our contractual obligation and get the hell out of here is probably what they were thinking. So, yeah, it's too bad. Like, a lot of the games also just weren't good. It had good games, but some of the hyped ones were really big flops.
It did kind of what I see it as a true successor to the PSP, in that both those systems, credibly RPG, just like heavy. Like, if you want to get RPGs, especially niche RPGs that you might not find on other systems, that's where you go. For the PSP, I think it was just a result of like the time and, you know, Sony actually caring and being like, oh yeah, let's bring a lot of stuff onto this platform. And for the Vita, it was like the fact that they cut bait so early, and then this niche group of people developed around this fan base that was clamoring for stuff like this, for visual novels, for RPGs, and, you know, developers saw a market there. Not a huge market.
It's amazing.
But, you know, I feel like Sony sometimes thinks that if they're not number one in a space, it's not worth being in that space at all. You know, if we're not breaking sales records, if we're not dominating, you know, the competition, why even be here? Like, let's just focus on the stuff we're already dominating.
Yeah. And can I talk about the timing for a second? Because, like,
absolutely.
Oh my God, guys. Like, it seems like they just could not have released this system at a worse time. I really don't think they could have, because we talked about mobile gaming.
Yep.
I mean, shit, let's just talk about mobile gaming right now. Because I remember in, 2012 to 2015-ish, I think by 2015 I was out, but like there was a period of time there for 2, 3, 4 years where everybody I knew at work was playing Clash of Clans. They were doing it every single day.
Yep.
You had all these freemium games that, I mean, it took a while for everybody to realize all these games are garbage.
Yep.
But for 2 or 3 years, these were, this was the sauce, right? Like this was the stuff you could, oh my God, you could play for free. You could play on your phone. And why do I need anything else?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so like they released this at the worst possible time. And then Nintendo comes around with the Switch, and they've taken advantage of the indie road that Sony has paved for them, right? Because you have all these indie games releasing on the Vita. Everybody realizes, wow, this is a great way to play indie games, and Nintendo just hits the ground running with that. And by the time the Switch comes out, everybody's also realized that mobile games are shit. And I actually want to play something portable that's actually good and made by a real developer and is not going to nickel and dime me to death. So yeah, the timing on that Vita is... Ugh.
Yeah. A lot of dark days in between college classes, playing on my like iPhone 4 with like my screen brightness turned all the way down so it didn't drain all my battery.
Yeah. But we did it. We all did it. Yeah. And some of us, I won't name names, but some of us still do it.
No comment there. Who are you talking about?
Gachapon games are an art, Paul.
Yeah, the art of pissing me off and like reaching into my wallet and me constantly slapping their hands away.
Gotta get your waifu.
Man, oh man. Yeah, that timing. Can I talk about some of the features on this system? Because like, I think this is another issue too. Is you release this system and it is a Cadillac when really all everybody wanted was like a Camry. You know what I mean? Like you have the 3G, you have the OLED screen, you had, what else was on this thing?
The front and rear touchscreen.
Yep.
Front and rear
cameras
screen.
too.
Front and rear cameras, yes.
Bluetooth. Like who's using Bluetooth on their Vita? Like we didn't even have reliable Bluetooth headphones when this system released. So you've got that, you've got a browser, like a proprietary browser in the system.
All worth it for that dual analog stick.
You could see who was playing a Vita near you. There was the app called Near, so you could bring up who in your area was playing and what they were playing.
God,
you take away a whole bunch of these features and your development costs drop like a rock, and probably your retail price drops like a rock too. Like, if you take away a whole bunch of this stuff, you could probably release the system at like $229 instead of $250, and then maybe a price drop after that. So they really I think they really misread the market, because everybody's carrying a phone at this point and the phone can do all that stuff. So why are we releasing all these features on the Vita that just aren't necessary?
I mean, you saw it with the DS.
Didn't want to take cameras and pictures on your Vita?
Exactly.
I've never even thought of camera app on my Vita.
Yeah.
Not once. That's what my N gauge is for.
I will admit the camera on the 3DS was fun, because it had that game where you could take a picture of yourself and then like it puts your picture on a bunch of balloons and then you fire at the balloons.
Yes.
And
it had like
and that was
like cool gimmicky stuff.
That was fun for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I still have a picture of my husband on that, so there we go.
Yeah.
Even the DS, I remember, had like cool little thing, because the DSi, I think, had like a little thing where you could do like simple animations and like take pictures of things and add them. So like it wasn't unprecedented for like a system to do this, but it just like that just didn't seem like Sony's lane, you know? Like, Sony wasn't going to be like, oh, make cute animations and put, like, little dinosaurs on it, you know? Like, Sony was like, here's our slick, black, like, you know, top-of-the-line OLED screen system. Like, okay, I want to play games on it. I don't want to take pictures of my family's birthday or something.
Yeah.
Yep. It's unfortunate, man. And you look at, again, I'm bringing up the Switch, but you look at the Switch and it's just like this laundry list of things that, okay, we know not to do this, we know not to do this, no camera, no this, no that, and oh my god, the Switch is wildly successful. Who saw that coming? It's crazy, man. But yeah, like it was just overloaded with features that weren't necessary.
Yeah, another thing for me too with the Vita is they started with a pretty solid launch lineup of PS1 classics, PSP games, but then they just dropped support for that too, and more modern games just did not come out on it. Like, why can't I have PS2 classics on my Vita? Why can't I play those games?
Nuts. Why? You have a library from the most successful system ever made. Why wouldn't you port PS2 games to your system? It's infuriating.
No, my favorite part is when certain games you can get on the Vita, certain games you can get on the PS3, certain games you can get on the PS4. Like, nobody's thought, like, oh, let's just make a dedicated sort of library they can draw from all at the same time. Like, obviously, I say this as if I know the intricacies of what that would entail, and not like, you know, 3 programmers locked in a hot room wanting to kill themselves because they can't get it to work. But, you know, it is frustrating that you can't have access to all the things that you want all the time. But no, I agree. Like, there is just something, I don't know why Sony just doesn't want people to look backwards anymore. They're just like constantly trying to turn our heads to look into the future. They're like, don't look back there. Doesn't matter. We're done with it. Bye. Even, I mean, they were going to close all these stores and now they're not. Who knows if, you know, maybe they're waiting 3 months down the road till we stop caring and then they'll do it anyway.
Yeah,
they'll try again in 5 years, probably.
But they'll take a look and say, we're not making enough money anymore. Get rid of it. So.
Yeah. The other place where I think they dropped the ball on the Vita, that the integration with the PS3, just not there.
Yeah.
Like, they could have, I think they eventually had remote play on the PS4, but like, we're adding remote play, 4-5 years after the system is launched? Like, how about you take some resources from the camera and put it towards either remote playing through the PS3 onto your TV or playing PS3 games on the Vita? Something. But it just, you know, it just wasn't there. For a PS3 owner, you know, the question becomes, why would I buy a Vita when I'm playing the same games but better? You know what I mean?
Now I'm wondering why they never did like a PSP Go type of Vita that's like digital only, because even when they were doing the PSP Go, like, I feel like digital games were around, but not as, you know, as big and ubiquitous as they are today. So if you had done like a digital only Vita, cut a bunch of the features like you're saying, cut the camera, cut some of the other stuff, obviously keep the rear touchscreen because some games need it. I feel like that would have been something that maybe would have been popular from people who aren't PS Vita collectors, you know, as just like a casual person who's trying to find an alternative mobile device. Something like that, I feel like may have been somewhat successful. I'm just shooting shots in the dark here as to how I could save the system that's very dead already.
Yeah. I think at that point they just have already given up. Yeah. It just seems like Sony gave up on the system so early.
Yeah, we talk about all these physical things, all these material things, software, et cetera, et cetera. All that stuff can be overcome by a company that has the will to do it. Yeah. And they just didn't. And it baffles me to this day because you can totally turn a ship around. The people next door in Kyoto did it with the 3DS. So why couldn't Sony? But yeah.
Yep. And but to end on a positive note, very good emulation machine if you mod it correctly. Incredible for that.
Machine.
Not that we would advocate for that. That is illegal.
No,
don't do that,
here,
buddy. Keep it moving.
I didn't buy a second Vita for that purpose. No.
Yeah, that would be immoral, more importantly, and we would have to fire you immediately.
And it's funny, even as well as the Vita did in Japan, and it did well. Like when I was there last February, the Vita shelves were stocked.
Yeah.
Like like at used game stores, everywhere else. The Switch was number one, but the Vita sections were very robust. So even for as well as it did there, it still didn't have a killer app. Like it didn't have, the game du jour back then was Monster Hunter. And I think the lack of Capcom support and Monster Hunter in particular also kind of did it in, because the 3DS had it, the Vita didn't, and people needed to get their fix. That's why we have this wonderful Monster Hunter film that's just been released. It's such a popular franchise.
That's right, the first of many, I'm sure.
Oh, the first of many, yes.
Listen, if they wrung out like how many Resident Evil movies, I'm sure they'll get at least one or two more Monster Hunter ones.
You're probably right, actually. It's funny with Resident. I know this is a tangent, but whatever.
We never do those.
We never do those, but
are outraged.
I think the reason the Resident Evil movies were a moderate success was because they didn't really have anything to do with Resident Evil.
Nope.
Yeah.
True.
There was nobody to get pissed off at, like, the lack of faith to the source material. It was just like, it was so different that, all right, well, I guess it's just a movie and it's got Resident Evil's name on it, whatever. So they'll probably do the same thing with Monster Hunter is what I'm getting at.
Another thing, too, with the games, since you were talking, like, in Japan it was a moderate success, is the amount of games that were stuck in Japan.
Yeah, yeah.
Just, like, Atlas titles. There were just so many games. I was like, are we going to get a Western release? And we never did. But at the same time, it seemed to lead to a rise in the Asian English games.
Yeah.
There's, I probably have 20 to 30 titles that were never released here in the States, but they still have English subtitles, up to even visual novels where they have a full English translation.
Wow.
But you can only get them in Japan or in Asia.
Nonetheless, still happy with that development overall.
Yes.
The Asian English game is, it's nice to have a kind of like halfway localized game.
Yeah.
That's how they got around the licensing for I'm eternally happy about it, because there has been a total of 0 Super Robot Wars games released in North America. Aside from like the OG ones that don't have any licensing issues, but any of the good, so to speak, Super Robot Wars games not released here until they started getting around that and releasing them in Asia, where the licensing is just the Wild West. They'll just release anything, and they put English subtitles on it. So yeah, I'm super, super happy about that. Finally getting to play Super Robot Wars games in English.
It's a dream come true.
Including a couple on the Vita.
Yes, I have 5 and 10, or is it V and X? I'm not even quite
V
sure.
V and X, Kelly.
Okay.
How dare you?
Well, they clearly picked the wrong letters.
They really did. You have to be familiar with the RoboWars ridiculous naming conventions. Like, if you go through the list, through history, it's like, what is going on here?
All right, and did we have any other reasons that we think that the Vita did not succeed over here in the States or in
I
Europe?
can't. I can't really. I think we really were thorough with our assessment.
It'll go right next to the Saturn, the TurboGrafx, the 32X, the Dreamcast, all these other great...
Which one
do you
think is worse? Arnie, which one do you think is worse in terms of mismanagement? Because we've done the TurboGrafx episode.
Yeah.
You were on that one, unless I'm mistaken. But, I mean, you're on like every episode. So pretty safe bet. But which one do you think is the more egregious case of mismanagement, the TurboGrafx or the Vita?
I think it's the Turbo.
I think it's the Turbo.
I think it's
I
the
hate
Turbo.
to say it.
At least the Vita managed to release in all 3 major markets.
Good point. And the Vita games, for the most part, had attractive box art.
Yes.
Oh, that's true.
And
they're cute little boxes too.
Great boxes.
And
Love
I will
the Vita
say,
boxes.
if we want to talk, because we complain, oh, Sony didn't do enough revisions of the PS Vita. You want to talk about a company that did way too many fucking revisions? It was the goddamn Turbo Graphics, the fucking Turbo UFO, the PC Engine, the Turbo Duo, the what is it? The Core Graphics,
Core Graphics.
What's the portable one?
Graphics. The LT. I think
LT,
the PC Engine LT,
the Turbo Express.
Jesus, man, those guys went to town. And the Vita did too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the PS TV.
And
So
the
I-
PS TV.
Yeah, so I can have one of each and feel
Exactly.
like my collection is complete.
God, if you had one of each Turbo Graphics console, Lord.
Oh man, I kind of, I secretly envy those people. In all honesty, I just wish I had the space for like my own video game museum.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever. That's a rabbit hole. Like it's terrible. It's a terrible vice.
Yeah, people complain about the like Gen 2 Genesis with the CD add-on and the 32X in it as like the Frankenstein. I don't know, man. I've always really had a soft spot for that OG Turbo Graphics with the giant tumor of a CD add-on grafted to the back of it.
Man. Not pretty. Aesthetics, not a factor. For
Function
that, no.
over form, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, well, then that wraps up this section for our Vita discussion. We will take one last break and then come back to talk about the games and the legacy of the Vita. All right, and we are back to finish out our discussion about the PlayStation Vita, talking about the games now. Just want to hear everyone's favorite games or games that have made a lasting impression for you on the Vita. So we will start this with Anthony.
Man, and I said this during the break, but they had such a great idea with the cross-buy for a lot of these games, a lot of the first-party games, really. To the point where I even forgot where I bought the game. So, like, let's say, like, Sly Cooper, right? I think Thieves in Time was one of those games.
Mm-hmm.
I bought
Yeah.
it for the
Yes.
PS... Was it the 3? I can't remember anymore, man.
PS3,
right? Yeah. My mind is... I need that saline drip right now. The saline drip, that's it. That's what it is. Anyway, moving on.
There we go.
Oh, anyway.
So I remember buying the game. I bought it on a PS3, and then it was just so cool being able to automatically transfer everything right over as a digital copy to the Vita.
Mm-hmm.
But I also forgot that I hadn't bought the physical copy for the Vita. So there were times where I would look for games that I didn't actually have and be so mad that I couldn't find them. But nonetheless, it was like such a cool feature. I don't think people don't really talk about it as much, at least from what I hear.
Yeah.
But that cross-buy feature was really cool, man. They had it for, as I said, Sly Cooper, Battle Royale, the little Smash
PlayStation
Brothers.
All-Stars.
PlayStation All-Stars,
Yes.
baby.
Right?
Yeah,
They had
yeah.
it for that, which was really cool. Being,
I'm a fat princess. Man.
yeah.
Oh, dude, I loved Fat
Right?
Princess.
And it was just,
Nobody plays
No.
it anymore, but
No.
I love
but it was
that game.
so cool that they implemented this. And these are ideas that I always used to wonder if they would be a thing. Just to be able to play your game on all these different systems. I know Street Fighter versus Tekken, they had some kind of cross compatibility, I guess, with like DLC and stuff like that. Marvel versus Capcom was another one. With that being said, though, I mean, to me that was like the huge selling point of the Vita. Also, my MLB The Show games, just being able to buy on both consoles for a cheaper price together and being able to play my season, while I'm traveling and whatnot on 3G. So allegedly. So, yeah, man, they had some really good. That's what gets me mad about the Vita. It was just like they had everything I always wanted as a child, even as an adult, and they didn't stick the landing. They didn't stick to it.
Threw it away.
But at the end of the day, my favorite game was launch day game, which was Uncharted. It was a game that always stays in there. It's the game that really just made me feel like I was playing on a console. It didn't feel like there was any drop in quality or anything. It was like, wow, this is a launch day game. This thing is gonna be sick. Like, and then the way it implemented all the touchscreen stuff, because one of the things I always thought of was like on a portable system, having touchscreen access really helps you when you're on the go. Like, you know, you don't really need the analog, but being able to just touch the screen and make things happen a lot faster, especially when I'm about to get off at the next stop. So I got to like pause this bad boy, put it away. Things like that really, they cater to me. And Uncharted nailed it. They just kind of never really went on from there. It just kind of stagnant at that point.
Like everything else, they decided to drop it later on.
and you know, like that being said, like with the memory card, definitely probably was the main, like Arnie said, that was it. That was kind of like the death nail when it launched. But if you just disregard that and look at the games, it's got such a quality lineup for really anyone.
Paul, how about you? What were your favorite Vita games?
It's funny, when I was going through the list originally, it was a lot of games that I could already, or that were available already for the PS3.
Mm-hmm.
Not a heck of a lot of like really great Vita exclusives. You know, a lot of this, like Trails of Cold Steel, for example, I'm like, yeah, I loved playing that on the Vita. And it's like, wait, no, I could have played that on the PS3, so it doesn't really count. You know, eventually all the Danganronpa games got ported, but I think those are probably a good example of Vita exclusive games that, you know, especially kind of as an introduction to the visual novel genre.
Yes.
Those were a lot of fun. I haven't started the third one yet, actually. I've only played the first two, but the third one's coming up.
Please tell me you at least have the third one already.
I do. Okay, I know. It's like, Jesus Christ, it's so like expensive gold. Now. I got that one on launch because I knew for sure that I was going to end up playing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird for me for Danganronpa how I just sort of stumbled across the games. So I happened to be in a GameStop picking up another game. I can't even remember what that game is at that point. But I had just been laid off of my job, so I had plenty of time. And I just saw this box art that was pink and white. Yeah. I was like, what the heck is this? And I read the back and I was like, this seems really interesting. So I went home and just played through the entire game, probably. I actually pulled an all-nighter because I got to the sixth trial. Mm-hmm. And it just took forever to get through that, but it was already 2 a.m. I was like, no, I've got to finish this game. So it was probably 6, 7 a.m. finally going to bed. But yeah, I've got to agree with the Danganronpa for sure.
Yeah, it's got a very unique aesthetic. It's got a unique approach to the visual novel. I really appreciated it. Beyond that, you know, there's a lot of other, when I look at my Vita and I look at all the games that I have on it, like Muramasa, I really enjoyed. Soldner X2 was a solid shoot 'em up on a system that, you know, you can't pull that kind of game off on the 3DS. It takes something like the Vita and the really high quality Vita screen in order to pull off a game like that. And I mean, they do that with the Switch now. So, you know, if you want to play more shoot 'em ups, but Soldner X2 and a few of the other, like Super Stardust, I think it was called, as well on the Vita. Really, really good system actually for shoot 'em ups. Now that I think about it. So, yeah, those are some of my favorites. I see that you mentioned the Zero Escape series here. I've got all the Zero Escape games on the Vita. I just haven't played them yet. But that's another one. Kelly, what did you think of Gravity Rush? I'm curious. Like, did you finish it all the way? Did you play it immediately?
I bought it immediately. It took a few months. I have played the entire game. Yeah. Started it. It didn't hook me right away. So I started it. I think I got into the 5th chapter, put it down for a while. But then when I repicked it back up, I can remember going around the house and just having my Vita in hand and throwing it up towards the ceiling so I could get the right angle while I was doing the gravity thing. Yeah. But I really did love that game. And the fact that it's another Sony thing, right? So they had that game. They ported it to the PS4, but I still think the Vita version is the better version. personally.
Yeah, the PS4 version is like really hard to find too, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's another one that I think was only released physically on Amazon in limited amounts. So after it went out of print, it started to skyrocket in price. Yeah. But they brought out Gravity Rush. They brought out Gravity Rush 2. There was outrage by the fans because they were going to cut online support a few months later because it wasn't successful enough for them. They managed to get the servers set for a little bit longer period of time. Yeah. But once again, you've just got Sony being Sony.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I liked Gravity Rush. I liked it as an exclusive. I never finished it. I thought like it unlike with you, it really grabbed me at the beginning. I loved the aesthetic. I thought the control scheme was unique. I'd never played anything like it before, which is these days that's kind of all I want out of a game is just something that I haven't played before. And then like halfway through I was like, man, I'm really having a hard time just controlling Kat and getting her to, like, the camera was just all over the place.
Yeah.
If they had a little more time to refine it, I would have probably liked it a bit more. But really unique game and really good showcase for the Vita, I thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I had to pick two games that were showcases for the Vita, it would definitely be Gravity Rush and then Tearaway.
Tearaway,
yeah.
For me personally, there is a PS4 version now that was expanded upon, but Tearaway, the Vita version, is still considered your best version to go for.
That screen on the back.
And honestly, I have to wonder if the Vita would have done better if that was your early release instead of Little Deviants. Because Little Deviants, yes, it showed off all the features, but it wasn't all that fun of a game at the end of the day. Where Tearaway showed off all the features of the Vita and did it masterfully. Have any of you played through Tearaway?
I own it, haven't played it yet. It's one of the ones that I think I'm going to pop in next on my Vita. I tried playing Exist Archive.
Oh,
I'm just not feeling it.
It's great. Exist Archive is great for like 4 hours where you get that Valkyrie profile feel, and then it just drags on, and it's the same 4 color swapped enemies over and over and over, and they just become a bullet sponge or sword sponge.
Good to know. I think I've been playing for about 5 hours at this point, and I'm just like, it's just not. It's kind of dragging. I don't really know if I want to keep going with it.
Time to cut it loose. Throw it back in the lake.
Maybe I'll come back to it in a few years and I'll feel differently.
We all know that's not going to happen.
And Artie, any of the PS Vita games stand out for you?
For me, the conversation was and began and ended with Persona 4 Golden. Persona 4 Golden was the game I wanted, is the reason I would ever get a PS Vita. I got it. I got Persona 4 Golden. I have not finished it. I think I got like a few hours into it, and I stopped. Just got distracted with other stuff. But I do have one game that I played on the Vita. It was right when I got my Vita Slim. It was the first game I popped in. Is Shantae Half Genie Hero. I love that game. I had such a good time with it. I did finish it, and then I realized there's more to play, and I was like, I'm going to put it down for now, because I like marathoned it when I first got it. I could not stop playing it. But that to me like showed off perfectly what the Vita was capable of. The colors were nice and crisp. The control with the dual analog was sublime. Like I couldn't have asked for anything better in my portable gaming, and it really made me sort of think back on all those games I played on the 3DS that I wished I had a second analog stick, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And I was like, not to mention the fact that I don't know about you guys, but the 3DS always for me ergonomically, if I play it for too long, my hands start cramping. It just doesn't feel very nice. But the PS Vita I could play for hours and I didn't really get tired of it or have that issue. It also is like very devious in that it boots up immediately, like very quickly. I put it to sleep, I pick it up the next day, I'd hit that button and like bam, you're back in it.
Yes.
And that was the thing when I was like, I look at my 3DS, I look at my Vita, I'm like, I just want to play, and I'd reach for the Vita instinctually because I know I'm gonna get it like that. It's gonna be back in. I'm not gonna have to go to the 3DS title screen and then click on the thing and then watch the thing, and I didn't have to go through all that nonsense. I just wish that I had gotten a few more of those games when they were cheap and GameStop was trying to clear them out. I've had a couple lucky scores. I did get Gravity Rush. I got Deathmark back there. I don't think you can see it, but I got the collector's edition sealed for like $10 at a GameStop. And now I'm in that moment where I'm like, I gotta look at some Deathmark footage and see if it's worth opening up or if I should leave it for a little bit longer.
Yep.
Oh my god, you guys killed me.
Yeah, but I still got other games to play. I still got Tearaway to play. I got the Wipeout game that I want to try. I don't know if it's any good. It's Wipeout 2048, I think is what it's called.
It's probably not very good.
Yeah, I've got what is that?
It's
game?
probably excellent. It's a Vita game. Come on.
What is that? What is that game called? Oh, it was on Valkyrie Knights. Is that what that's called?
Valkyrie Knights 3?
Yes.
Probably.
That is yes. Which is another RPG game. Like they have a spin-off game for the Wii that I also own and have not played, but I'm kind of intrigued by what the game is like. Obviously Conception 2, I need to go back and finish that immediately.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Can I throw an honorable mention in here?
Sure.
One that I forgot, and when you mentioned Persona 4 Gold, and I'm like, oh my god, one of the most fun games I played on the Vita, and it's a Vita exclusive. Well, not anymore, but like for a long time it was. Persona 4 Dancing All Night.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
That is a phenomenal rhythm game. Like, just fantastic. I had so much fun with that one. The story mode was like just perfect. Like, just the right amount of time. Just obviously completely unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but that doesn't matter because, you get to revisit all the characters again.
Mm-hmm.
I loved P4 Dan. Like, that was a good one.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot of experience with the Vita, but what I have played, I have very much enjoyed. And there's just, it sucks because we keep talking about this and we've hit this nail a few times, but like now I really want to dive into it, and it just feels like there's no way to do that in a realistically affordable way. Outside of maybe like modding or emulating or some of that stuff, which
we don't condone.
As a good and honorable man, I would never condone
that behavior.
So yeah, it's a shame. Maybe if I end up going to Japan, I'll ask Kelly for a list of like English titles I could pick up, and that's how I'll sort of get my fix.
And of course, I left myself for last just because I wanted to hear what you guys had to say so that I could work around that with some of my more obscure titles that I would have to recommend for the system. A lot of them are in the visual novel genre just because I think that works so well for the system.
It really does.
You can play your RPGs on the big, huge screen and then for an hour or two before going to bed, read in bed before. Use it as a novel almost. So for me, the top standouts for visual novels, we've got Steins Gate, which is a great anime, but the visual novel and the original version of the visual novel is still my favorite just because it fleshes out the story so much more. If you love time travel, you have to try this game. At least if you can stand the visual novels genre, try Steins Gate. And also the one that was a Kickstarter in 2015 finally came out in 2019, Muv-Luv. That
what
series,
a name.
That's the thing. The name of the series, Muv-Luv, you think it's going to be like a harem. And the first game in the trilogy is kind of a day-to-day school harem where all the girls are falling over the guy. And I wasn't too sure on that series at that point.
Yeah.
But then the second game completely flips it on its head and becomes a sci-fi thriller almost.
Oh, God.
Yes. And the third in the series pretty much is the best visual novel of all time. Not just by me, but a lot of people have voted it as the best visual novel of all time.
Oh, God.
So
well, now I gotta
look that one up.
What is it?
At least
what is it?
look
Like
it up.
$5-10 or something?
Oh, of course, Vita game, right? But it's still on the cheaper side. You can find it for like $20, I think. There's 2 different cartridges, 3 games, 3 visual novels, but it's well worth a read if you can stand the fact that you will be reading for about 120 hours between all 3 games.
But that's almost kind of par for the course.
What's the President McClane line in the Simpsons movie? I came here to lead, not to read.
Oh man.
And then the last one I would recommend is the Zero Escape series, of course. While there is a lot of visual novel to it, it also has puzzles that they're logic-based puzzles, and I just can't recommend them enough. When the games first came out and there were no real walkthroughs, it was more people online just talking to each other, trying to work out how to get through these puzzles to get to the next part of the game. And there's a lot of them, so I definitely recommend if you're looking into visual novels and you're looking for another place to start besides Danganronpa, Zero Escape series is a great place to start because there is enough gameplay to keep you engaged in the game.
Yeah. I always hesitate to mention it because it's just the worst name ever. Utawarerumono.
I could never pronounce that, so yes.
No, thank you. You've already got it once. I'll just splice it in.
That's one of those games where I must look insane when I'm trying to tell people about it, because I'm like, I just got this new game. It's Utawareru.
Oh God, guys! I mean, I'm all for keeping original Japanese stuff when you localize, but whew, that one that's a tough one. Yeah. But that one I also really liked a lot. Visual novel, but it had like this Final Fantasy Tactics kind of game, breaking it up the whole way. Kelly, do you know of any other games like that where it's got like a strategy game but visual novel between?
Not on the PlayStation Vita. There is one that is on the PlayStation 3 called Tears to Tiara 2. But just make sure if you look that up,
I've heard of this.
You're looking at Tears to Tiara 2 because the first one is a hentai game. So
You shouldn't have said anything. I was eagerly awaiting the Discord message.
Kelly,
I think I've gotten the wrong game.
I've heard of it because I have Aquapaza, the fighting game for the PS3. And it has a lot of characters from all these series, like Utawarerumono and Tears to Tiara, and like all these like borderline kind of hentai kind of stuff. But Utawarerumono actually is. I'm just rattling that shit off now, eh?
Yeah.
But that one's actually not so. It's definitely got like harem factor to it, a bit of fan service. But I was actually rather pleasantly surprised by how good the story was and the fact that it had that kind of tactical game in between.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind having more games like that. And when you mentioned Zero Escape and the fact that it has like the puzzles and stuff like that in between, it just jogged my memory. So Tears to Tiara 2, not 1.
Yes.
Heir to the Overlord. That's what it's called.
Oh, I thought Arnie just made that up. I was like, wow, that's clever.
And then there is a prequel to those 2 games. Sorry, I'm not going to try to butcher the pronunciation right now, but that's only on the PS4, but it was released, Prelude to the Fallen. I had a collector's edition of that one pre-ordered, and it was canceled on me, and now I can't find a copy. And it's definitely one of those rare print games.
Yeah. From what I understand, though, I mean, not that you, not that you're gonna open it, but but my understanding is that it's not very good. Those were on my radar, and because I had played the ones on the Vita. And when they came out on the PS4, I was like, it's not that great. Yeah.
All right. So to end it off, we're going to be talking about how will history view the Vita in the future. What do you think is the legacy that the Vita is going to hold in the future generations? How are we going to look back on the system in 10, 15 years? And we'll start with Anthony. How do you think this is going to go down?
Man, this is tough because if you just strip everything away, every console comes and goes, no matter what, no matter how long it's there, no matter if it's a failure or a success, it's just going to be there and then it's just going to be gone. The Vita, though, is just, it's like this, to me, the legacy is of like what really could have been. Like, this thing had everything that I wanted. Forget, like the specs wise, like the cameras and all that. I'm not even talking about that stuff. I'm just talking about the portability, the games, the ability to play these games on both consoles, something that the Switch kind of did. They kind of wound up doing it. This was like the first entry point into it. And to me, the legacy of this is just another one of those Sony not supporting their product. It's just Sony just giving up so easily. I mean, this thing, I don't know. This thing could have still been alive and kicking right now. I really don't know. But technology wise, it's still up there. It could have just held its own with anything that's out there. It's like with the Switch or anything. So it could have kept going. But man, just if you leave it up to Sony, they would have you not remember this thing at all. Just another example of Sony giving up on something and then trying to act like it never happened. But man, some incredible games though. Incredible games. And that's at the end of the day, as a gamer, that's what you want, right? You just want to at least have a console that at least gave you some enjoyment. But to the general public, to the people outside of the bubble, they're just going to look at this as like just a Virtual Boy, just a Dreamcast, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in general, if the system's failing.
But he's saying outside the system, like outside the Vita bubble, like for the people who aren't on Vita Island. And
I'm a permanent member. Sorry.
Oh, you're the queen of Vita Island, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for me, the legacy of the system really is in like some of the things that have happened around the Vita. So maybe not even the Vita itself, but limited run games. Yep. Love them or hate them.
Yeah.
They really did get their start with that PlayStation Vita. Would they have been as much of a success if it wasn't for Breach and Clear, Saturday Morning RPG, all those tiny titles that, because the Vita was so starved for games at that point in time, they were bought up and quickly snatched up within minutes. Yeah. So that's one of the legacies that I see the Vita leaving, is all those, love them or hate them, all those limited game companies that are out there.
Yep.
Oh, Paul, how about you?
It's really just a story of kind of what could have been. In chat, Mike right now just said it's the Dreamcast of handhelds. And he's right. It's a bit reductive.
We already did this. It's the TurboGrafx of handheld.
it might be the TurboGrafx of handheld. It's hard to say. The Dreamcast got crushed because of the PS2. Really, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. So the Vita is a little bit different in that regard. But to me, it's a great system. But it is like the Dreamcast in that regard, right? In that if you had one, you didn't have a ton of games, but like realistically, how many of these games are we actually going to be able to play, right? Like the Vita had more than enough quality to it. There's still a whole bunch of games for it that I haven't got around to. Yep. So, it wasn't successful mass market wise, but I hesitate to also kind of call it a failure, even though that's the word that we use. But to me, it's just, look, it's a system that didn't meet expectations, but the people who have it really enjoyed it.
Yep.
And continue to enjoy it. There's still a lot of groups out there that are just loving the Vita, its favorite system. And honestly, the collecting is hitting a high mark right now. It seems more and more people, like every day I'll be on Twitter and I'll see someone, hey, I just got my first PlayStation Vita. And it's like, where were you 8 years ago? And Arnie, bring us home. What are your thoughts on the Vita?
Yeah, every time we do one of these console retrospectives, I go in being like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. And by the end of it, I'm like, I'm sad now. This sucks.
I know.
Why are we doing this? We never do. When can we do the PS2 one where it's like, and then it sold 130 million units and everybody was so happy and nothing bad ever happened?
Yeah.
But no, I think it's the legacy of the Vita is sort of twofold in what you Kelly and what Anthony said. It's on the one hand, it's a story of a company completely giving up on something way before its time, right? Just cutting bait as soon as they possibly could when they realized it wasn't going to be whatever ridiculous expectation they made it up to be in their mind. But it's also a story of a console, the little console that could, right? Despite all those setbacks, just kept on going, kept on getting games, releasing games, kept on having people buy into it. You know, it's still one of those consoles that, like you said, Kelly, I feel like people to this day are still like, hey, I should pick up a PS Vita. That seems pretty cool.
Yeah.
And like, you know, just getting into it, discovering that you know, that library, discovering all the cool things that they missed out on, I think mostly through no fault of the Vita, but through the fault of Sony for not really pushing this thing, putting, you know, trying to see what wasn't working and tweaking it and trying to fix it. Instead, just being like, whatever, we tried, it's not worth it. The people who have it will still like it or whatever. We don't need to bother anymore. And, you know, thanks to that, we started getting these limited run companies, like them or not, like this is where it started, right? Breach and Clear on the PS4 probably sells nothing. Breach and Clear on the PS Vita, now you got some people who really are interested, maybe not even for the game itself, but just like, I need something. Like, I need a game to play on my PS Vita that I just paid like $200 for.
And it will always be the first game.
Exactly. So. It always has to be, you have to find these niche markets. And I think the lesson that Sony will not learn from this is that the system you gave up on like 7 years ago, still going, still selling, you know, not number one, breaking sales records, not doing all that, but still a very dedicated fan base that you could definitely make money off of. Obviously they don't care, and they'll probably never release a handheld console ever again.
Probably not.
But it is what it is. I hope that it's a good omen for other consoles like this. I hope that at least in the future, if a company releases something that's not immediately successful, they take a step back and actually look at what the things are happening, how they can improve, they can fix, and look at something like the Vita and be like, we can't give up now. Like, what if we actually push through this a little bit further and we see results on the other side, you know? So I hope that the legacy of the Vita is of a console that really did more than the people who made it thought that it ever would.
Kept alive by the fans, for sure. No matter how much Sony tried to kick it under a bus and run it over 15 times.
It's like, I don't want to root for Sony, but I want to root for the Vita, and I'm torn. Because it's like the communities that support like the PlayStation, like it's all fanboy, hardcore fanboy, but then the Vita community is really like, it's the heart and soul of the gaming community coming together, you know? And
well, they realize, right? Every person you get on board is maybe another day that this console doesn't die. So they're like, yes, come here, please. Buy stuff. We need you.
Yeah.
Even with no physical games left, even with the system being out of print, you've still got developers that are just gung-ho bringing out games for that Vita digitally.
Yeah,
if
it's
they
great
have
for them.
to.
They have a built-in audience that is looking for games.
Yep.
It doesn't cost that much to develop for it.
Yep.
It's a great idea for them. Everybody wins.
Yep. And I'll say this, even despite the fact, you know, we've been talking about how games are expensive and it's so limited and everything's like so like low production run. This Vita, I think I got as a present, but I think it was like $160, like $140. Like, you can still get these from Japan. Like, not that expensive.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is not like a barrier to entry is like getting a console. You can still get them fairly readily in beautiful colors, I might add. And then beyond that, you know, buy the games if you can afford to do so. If you can't, hack it.
Allegedly.
Shh, quiet. What? Huh?
I mean, we're pretty hell bent on physical games here, but like a lot. These games are all available digitally. They all go on sale.
Yep.
Like it cost to entry is only to ridiculous people like us.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We complain about problems that we created ourselves.
There have been
Very
a couple
much
of
so.
developers that have said they're slashing the prices on the games because they did think that the store was going to close down, but they decided to keep it open for a while longer, but who knows how long that will be. But the developers still said, we'll keep the prices low, so go ahead, buy them digitally. So that's it for us today here on Vita Island. We just want to thank you guys all for listening. If you could, please leave us a comment, a like, subscribe on your favorite podcast area, and join us on our Discord if you would like to. We'll gladly give you the link. And thank you once again to all of our patrons, and we will see you next time.